wisdom of King Odin. Quoting from Tracing Our Ancestors by Frederick Haberman, and also readings from the Havamal. A perusal of the Exodus, a collection of the ancient sagas of the Goths, collected by Snorri Sturluson in the 12th century, tells us how Odin led the Aesir, who called themselves a divine race, from the shores of the Black Sea through Russia into southern Scandinavia, where they became the aristocracy. It is from the Eddas, or the Eddas, or Dars, whichever way you want to pronounce it, that we learn of the gods of the ancient Aesir men: Thor, Balder, Frigg, Heimdall, Aegir, Freya, and the Valkyries. One of the sagas recites how God, disguised as a man named Rig, met on the seashore the first pair, named Ai and Edda, and gave them the power of childbearing, and from them has sprung the race of the Thralls. Concerning the Dars, Professor Waddell, on page 73 of his Aryan Origin of the Alphabet, writes, quote, "The runic letters of the Goths, British Scandinavians and Anglo-Saxons, and used by Cadmon, uniquely preserve very numerous archaic features of their Sumerian parents, which indicates a far more remote and independent origin than the Greek or Roman letters, from which they have been supposed to be derived. This significantly confirms the vastly remote antiquity of the great Gothic epics which the runic writing enshrines, namely the Dars. These Dars, I find, are not mythological poems of Gothic gods, as hitherto supposed, through their mutilated and perverted Teutonic translations and paraphrases, but are the genuine historical Gothic tradition, handed down in writing continuously through the ages, on the rise of the Aryans, Sumerians, or Goths under King Hurrier, Thor, or Arthur, and of their struggles and achievements in establishing the higher civilization in the ancient world." Close quote. From chapter 6 in the same book, we already see that Professor Waddell has shown that the Gothic Thor is derived from Dar in Indra, the Aryan name for Yahweh. Thor, therefore, is none other than the Gothic pagan name for Jehovah and Jove, and they make him the god of thunder and justice. Most of the Gothic sagas, however, centre around Odin, who, although made a deity in later years, was nevertheless a man and a leader of the Aesir, or Aesir men, whose capital was at Asgard in Aesirheim, where his castle, the Valhalla, was located. Odin's actual existence was in the last half of the 3rd century AD, as fixed by Anderson's Royal Genealogy and quoted by Milner in his Royal House of Britain. As Odin is the central figure of Germanic mythology, it appears therefore that the Odin saga itself cannot be much older than the 5th century AD. Odin's people, the Aesir, or Aesir men, were the descendants of those Aesir or Anglii of Ariana, east of the Caspian Sea, who while sojourning there also embraced the faith of Zoroaster, the religion of Asia, which gave Asia its name. With the coming of those Asia, or Asian, in about 200 BC, began that mighty movement of people from Asia, known as the Volkerwanderung, which continued for centuries and hurled one wave after another of Asiatics, Israelites, Ishmaelites, Sarmatian Slavs, and Mongolian Huns upon the countries of Europe, and also supplied Europe with the Scythians, while occupying their capital city of Gyrus on the Dnieper, which became Asgard. The invasion of these Asia pushed the Sakai, or the royal Scyths, into Germany, where they appeared as the Saxons, who migrated north of the Carpathians through Silesia into Saxony and the countries west of the Elbe, like Westphalia and Hanover. For about 4 centuries, those Asia, or mighty Asian, stayed in Asialand, until the 3rd century AD, when under the leadership of Odin they started on the westward move again and headed straight along the shores of the Baltic to the North Sea coast, where they appeared as the Angles. In their westward push they came into contact with their cousins, the Getae or the Goths, whom they scattered northwards into Götaland or Sweden and southward into Germany. There are other people in Sweden besides the Goths. Some of the Donsk people settled there centuries before our era, and there are other Scythian tribes there. But besides the Lapps of the extreme north, all the Scandinavians came from that cradle of humanity south of the Black and Caspian Seas. The so-called Nordic group is an important part of the Aryan race, but to that race also belong the Jews, but their features have become warped through a strong infusion of Edomite and Khazar blood. In fact, they can't really still be called Aryan. Some of the present-day Jews are the descendants of those who escaped the Roman wars of AD 70 and 135, but not many. Mr. Hitler and his professors will yet find that out before long, and perhaps to their sorrow. However, our professors also know as little about our race as the Germans do about theirs, because for over a century our universities and seminaries imitated everything that the German skeptics thought, and now the whole intellectual world is befuddled. Odin's people, the mighty Asia, consider themselves to be a divine race. Professor Waddell, in his Aryan Origin, states that in the Gothic runes the letter A is pronounced Asa or Ace, meaning the one or the first one. We still have the ace in a pack of cards. We have explained elsewhere that our letter A is derived from the Phoenician letter Aleph, the bull, which originally lay on its side, representing the horns of a bull and referring to the time when the fall equinox lay in Taurus the bull, at which time the creation of Adam took place and the Adamic calendar began. We therefore find Adam pictured on Akkadian carvings wearing horns as a headdress. The meaning of it is that as the bull, Aleph, was the first of the constellations in Adamic chronology, so Adam also was the father of the Aryan race, the first one, the Ace, the Asa, the holder of the birthright. It is therefore not surprising that the people of Odin, the Asa or Angles, should in their homeland in Ariana, in Asaland, and also in North Germany, wear the horns of a bull as their headdress, either brazen helmets having the ears and horns of an ox, or else actually wearing the horns of one, as shown in pictures of Odin and his Asa or Anglii. So, Odin was a notable king from the 3rd century, and the Havamal probably originated in sayings of his, passed down to and remembered by the Scandinavian equivalent of the Druids.
Tune in to Radio Stormer on thedailystormer.com.
King Solomon's wisdom and proverbs have come down to us today, and so has the wisdom of King Odin. Obviously, the Proverbs of Solomon, the wisest man in the world, are superior, as they deal with far more situations than do Odin's. But Odin's Proverbs do have an appeal of their own, in that they refer to the cold lands of Europe, rather than to the summer lands of our past. They are as much a part of our heritage as the Christian Bible is, so I will narrate some of them here. Wisdom for wanderers and counsel to guests. At every doorway, ere one enters, one should spy around, one should pry around, for uncertain is the witting that there be no foeman sitting within before one on the floor. Hail, ye givers, a guest is come. Say, where shall he sit within? Much pressed is he who fain on the hearth would seek for warmth and weal. He hath need of fire who now is come, numbed with cold to the knee. Food and clothing the wanderer craves who has fared o'er the rimy fell. He craves for water who comes for refreshment, drying and friendly bidding, marks of goodwill, fair fame if 'tis won, and welcome once and again. He hath need of his wits who wanders wide, out simple will serve at home, but a gazing stock is the fool who sits mid the wise and nothing knows. Let no man glory in the greatness of his mind, but rather keep watch over his wits. Cautious and silent let him enter a dwelling, to the heedful comes seldom harm, for none can find a more faithful friend than the wealth of mother wit. Let the wary stranger who seeks refreshment keep silent with sharpened hearing. With his ears let him listen and look with his eyes, thus each wise man spies out the way. Happy is he who wins for himself fair fame and kindly words, but uneasy is that which a man doth own while it lies in another's breast. Happy is he who hath in himself praise and wisdom in life, for oft doth a man ill counsel get when 'tis born in another's breast. A better burden can no man bear on the way than his mother wit. 'Tis the refuge of the poor, and richer it seems than wealth in a world untried. A better burden can no man bear on the way than his mother wit, and no worse provision can he carry with him than too deep a draught of ale. Less good than they say for the sons of men is the drinking oft of ale, for the more they drink the less they can think and keep a watch over their wits. A bird of unmindfulness flutters over ale feasts, whiling away men's wits. With the feathers of that fowl I was fettered once in the garths of Gunloss below. Drunk was I then, I was over-drunk in that crafty Jotun's court. But best is an ale feast when man is able to call back his wits at once. Silent and thoughtful and bold in strife the prince's bairn should be. Joyous and generous let each man show him until he shall suffer death. A coward believes he will ever live if he keep him safe from strife, but old age leaves him not long in peace, though spears may spare his life. A fool will gape when he goes to a friend, and mumble only or mope, but pass him the ale cup, and all in a moment the mind of that man is shown. He knows alone who has wandered wide, and far has fared on the way, what manner of mind a man doth own who is wise of head and heart. Keep not the mead cup, but drink thy measure, speak needful words or none. None shall upbraid thee for lack of breeding, if soon thou shouldst thy rest. A greedy man, if he be not mindful, eats to his own life's hurt. Oft the belly of the fool will bring him to scorn when he seeks the circle of the wise. Herds know the hour of their going home, and turn them again from the grass, but never is found a foolish man who knows the measure of his maw. The miserable man and evil-minded makes of all things mockery, and knows not that which he best should know, that he is not free from faults. The unwise man is awake all night, and ponders everything over. When morning comes he is weary in mind, and all is a burden as ever. The unwise man weens all who smile, and flatters him are his friends, nor notes how oft they speak him ill when he sits in the circle of the wise. The unwise man weens all who smile, and flatter him are his friends, But when he shall come into court he shall find there are few to defend his cause. The unwise man thinks all to know, while he sits in a sheltered nook. But he knows not one thing, what he shall answer if men shall put him to proof. For the unwise man 'tis best to be mute when he comes amidst the crowd. For none is aware of his lack of wit, if he wastes not too many words. For he who lacks wit shall never learn, though his words flow ne'er so fast. Wise he is deemed who can question well, and also answer back. The sons of men can no secret make of the tidings told in their midst. Too many unstable words are spoken by him who never holds his peace. The hasty tongue sings its own mishap, if it be not bridled in. Let no man be held as a laughing-stock, though he comes as a guest for a meal. Wise enough seem many while they sit dry-skinned and are not put to the proof. A guest thinks him witty who mocks at a guest, and runs from his wrath away. But none can be sure who jests at a meal, that he makes not fun amongst foes. Oft, though their hearts lean towards one another, friends are divided at table. Ever the source of strife 'twill be, that guest will anger guest. A man should take always his meals betimes, unless he visit a friend, or he sits and mopes and half-famished seems, and can ask or answer nought. Long is the round to a false friend leading, even if he dwell on the way. But though far off fared to a faithful friend, straight are the roads and short. A guest must depart again on his way, nor stay in the same place ever. If he bide too long on another's bench, the loved one soon becomes loathed. One's own house is best, though small it may be. Each man is master at home. Though he have but 2 goats and a bark-thatched hut, 'tis better than craving a boon. One's own house is best, though small it may be. Each man is master at home. With a bleeding heart will he beg who must his meat at every meal. Let a man never stir on his road a step without his weapons of war, for unsure is the knowing when need shall arise of a spear on the way without. I found none so noble or free with his food, who was not gladdened with a gift, nor one who gave of his gifts such store, but he loved reward could he win it. Let no man stint him and suffer need of the wealth he has won in life. Oft is saved for a foe what was meant for a friend, and much goes worse than one weens. With raiment and arms shall friends gladden each other, so has one proved oneself. For friends last longest if fate be fair, who give and give again. To his friend a man should bear him as friend, and gift for gift bestow. Laughter for laughter let him exchange, but leasing pay for a lie. To his friend a man should bear him as friend, to him and a friend of his. But let him beware that he be not the friend of one who is friend to his foe. Hast thou a friend whom thou trustest well, from whom thou cravest good? Share thy mind with him, gifts exchange with him, fair to find him oft. But hast thou one whom thou trustest ill, yet from whom thou cravest good? Thou shalt speak him fair, but falsely think, and leasing pay for a lie. Yet further of him whom thou thou trustest ill, and whose mind thou dost misdoubt. Thou shalt laugh with him, but withhold thy thought, for gift with like gift should be paid. Young was I once, I walked alone, and bewildered seemed in the way. Then I found me another, and rich I thought me, for man is the joy of man. Most blessed is he who lives free and bold, and nurses never a grief. For the fearful man is dismayed by out, and the mean one mourns over giving. My garments once I gave in the field to 2 landmarks made as men. Heroes they seemed when once they were clothed. 'Tis the naked who suffer shame. The pine tree wastes, which is perched on the hill, nor bark nor needles shelter it. Such is the man whom none doth love, for what should he longer live? Fiercer than fire among ill friends, for 5 days love will burn. But anon 'tis quenched when the 6th day comes, and all friendship soon is spoiled. Not great things alone must one give to another. Praise often is earned for naught. With half a loaf and a tilted bowl I have found me many a friend. Little the sand, if little the seas, little are minds of men. For never in the world were all equally wise, 'tis shared by the fools and the sage. Wise in measure let each man be, but let him not wax too wise, for never the happiest of men is he who knows much of many things. Wise in measure should each man be, but let him not wax too wise. Seldom a heart will sing with joy if the owner be all too wise. Wise in measure should each man be, but never let him wax too wise. Who looks not forward to learn his fate, unburdened heart will bear. Brand kindles from brand until it be burned. Spark is kindled from spark. Man unfolds him by speech with man, but grows over secret through silence. He must rise betimes who fain of another, or life or wealth would win. Scarce falls the prey to sleeping wolves, or to slumber's victory in strife. He must rise betimes who hath few to serve him, and see to his work himself. Who sleeps at morning is hindered much, to the keen is wealth half won. Of dry logs saved and roof bark stored, a man can know the measure. Of firewood too, which should last him out 1.5 years to come. Fed and washed should one ride to court, though in garments none too new. Thou shalt not shame thee for shoes or breeks, nor yet for a sorry steed. Like an eagle swooping over old ocean, snatching after his prey, so comes a man into court who finds there are few to defend his cause. Each man who is wise, and would wise be called, must ask and answer right. Let one know thy secret, but never a second, if 3 1,000 shall know. A wise counselled man will be mild in bearing, and use his might in measure, lest when he come his fierce foes among, he find others fiercer than he. Each man should be watchful and wary in speech, and slow to put faith in a friend, for the words which one to another speaks, he may win reward of ill. At many a feast I was far too late, and much too soon at some. Drunk was the ale, or yet unserved, never hits he the joint who is hated. Here and there to a home I had haply been asked, had I needed no meat at my meals, or were 2 hams left hanging in the house of that friend where I had partaken of one. Most dear is fire to the sons of men, most sweet the sight of the sun. Good is health if one can but keep it, and to live a life without shame. Not rest of all is he who is ill, for some are blessed in their bairns, some in their kin, and some in their wealth, and some in working well. More blessed are the living than the lifeless, 'tis the living who come by the cow. I saw the hearth fire burn in the rich man's hall, and himself lying dead at the door. The lame can ride horse, the handless drive cattle, the deaf one can fight and prevail. 'Tis happier for the blind than for him on the bale fire, but no man hath care for a corpse. Best have a son, though he be late born, and before him the father be dead. Seldom are stones on the wayside raised, saved by kinsmen to kinsmen. 2 are hosts against 1. The tongue is the head's bane. 'Neath a rough hide a hand may be hid. He is glad at nightfall who knows of his lodging. Short is the ship's berth, and changeful the autumn night. Much veers the wind ere the 5th day, and blows round yet more in a month. He that learns nought will never know how one is the fool of another. For if one be rich, another is poor, and for that should bear no blame. Cattle die, and kinsmen die, thyself too soon must die. For one thing never, I ween, will die, fair fame of one who has earned. Cattle die, and kinsmen die, thyself too soon must die. But one thing never, I ween, will die, the doom on each one dead. Full-stocked foals had the fatling's sons, who bear now a beggar's staff. Brief is wealth as the winking of an eye, most faithless ever of friends. If happy a fool should find for himself wealth or a woman's love, pride waxes in him, but wisdom never, and onward he fares in his folly. All will prove true that thou askest of runes, those that are come from the gods, which the high powers wrought, and which Odin painted, then silence is surely best.
You're listening to Radio Stormer on thedailystormer.com.
Maxims for all men. Praise day at even, a wife when dead, a weapon when tried, a maid when married, ice when 'tis crossed, and ale when 'tis drunk. Hew wood in wind, sail the seas in a breeze, woo a maid in the dark, for day's eyes are many. Work a ship for its gliding, a shield for its shelter, a sword for its striking, and a maid for her kiss. Drink ale by the fire, but slide on the ice, by a steed when 'tis lanky, a sword when 'tis rusty, feed thy horse 'neath a roof, and thy hound in the yard. The speech of a maiden should no man trust, nor the words which a woman says, for their hearts were shaped on a whirling wheel, and falsehood fixed in their breasts. Breaking bow or flaring flame, ravening wolf or croaking raven, routing swine or rootless tree, waxing wave or seething cauldron, flying arrows or falling billow, ice of a night-time coiling adder, woman's bed-talk or broken blade, play of bears or a prince's child, sickly calf or self-willed thrall, witch's flattery, new-slain foe, brother's slayer, though seen on the highway, half-burned house or horse too swift, be never so trustful as these to trust. Let none put faith in the first sown fruit, nor yet in his son too soon. Whim rules the child, and weather the field, each is open to chance. Like the love of women whose thoughts are lies, is the driving under roughshod over slippery ice of a 2-year-old ill-tamed and gay, or in a wild wind steering a helmless ship, or the lame catching reindeer in the rhyme thought fell.
You're listening to Radio Stormer on thedailystormer.com.
Lessons for lovers. Now plainly I speak, since both I have seen. Unfaithful is man to maid. We speak them fairest when thoughts are falsest, and while the wisest of hearts. Let him speak soft words and offer wealth, who longs for a woman's love. Praise the shape of the shining maid, he wins who thus doth woo. Never a whit should one blame another, whom love hath brought into bonds. Oft a witching form will fetch the wise, which holds not the heart of fools. Never a whit should one blame another, for a folly which many befalls. The might of love makes sons of men into fools who once were wise. The mind knows alone what is nearest the heart, and sees where the soul is turned. No sickness seems to the wise so sore, as in nought to know content.